What is up, guys? It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, uh, the race show. Thank you for being with us this evening. I know you could probably be doing something else, but you're here with us. So, and
Why would they want to be doing anything else?
I know, right?
It's
Right.
Wednesday.
I guess I don't give myself enough credit.
I agree. I'm telling you, this is the place. This is the place to be.
So what do you got going on today, Alyssa?
Oh, I've just been busy with work. Just getting ready for this, trying to do a little research on our special guest, which I'm really excited about, so that I
Yes.
kind of know, man, this guy brings so much knowledge to the table right now. This is a real treat to have somebody like him.
Yeah,
Drop
guys.
some serious knowledge.
Yeah, we're gonna give you the spicy sauce today on sponsorships, marketing, what companies are looking for. It's going to be awesome. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, give a shout out to one of our supporters, Garrett Turbochargers, one of the best turbocharging companies in the world. We run Garrett Turbochargers on Nucky Johnson. We're going to be running 2 turbos this year, so double the ponies. But we so our guest today is the author of this book right here, Motorsports Marketing and Sponsorships. This is a great book. You can get it on Amazon. I think you might be able to get it on his website. I know you can get a digital preview copy on his website, but I'll let him talk a little bit about it. He just has a huge background in motorsports, marketing, sponsorships. He also runs his own sponsorship company, sponsorshipsummits.com. So I want to bring on Mr. Alex Striler. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Alyssa, Lewis, how are you two?
We're doing great. It's
so
Wednesday,
excited to have you here. Yes, we're so excited.
I appreciate the invite. That's cool.
Where are you located, Alex?
I'm in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Outside San Diego, it's called Valley Center, sort of in the country of San Diego.
Awesome. Amazing. We're so glad to have you. We've both been kind of geeking out on this one. So especially when it comes to the sponsorship stuff, because, Lewis is the racer. I would be the, and you've also been the person on the other side of the table that receives the sponsorship proposals, an endless stack of sponsorship proposals at PRI, right? Am I right?
How many do you usually get when you go?
You know what? It seems to have dropped in the past, I'd say 2 or 3 years, but say like 5 or 6 years ago, I would leave with like 30 plus.
Wow.
Everything from literally like a printed sheet of paper with some photographs that were like printed on like Granny's printer, to, and I'm not hating, I'm just being real, to, a full-fledged binder, something that's been really, really professionally put together. So, yeah.
It's common. Now, do you take those back with you or do you leave them there? Do you throw them out? I'm very curious. And I ask all the marketing directors I meet about getting decks and proposals at PRI or SEMA. I'm curious how many.
I know it's like, they just throw them out. I really don't throw them out. Because I know somebody, regardless of the level, they put time and effort into it. And the thing is, people believe in them, they're believing in themselves to make that approach. So exactly. I do. And I have referred back to some of them when I thought maybe there was a good fit. So, but that's a rare thing to happen. I've got to say, like, PRI is not, if you're going to go to PRI and you're going to drop a sponsorship deck on someone, make sure it is like, you cannot ignore it. It is so good that it's not gonna end up in the trash can when they're packing up to leave. That's how I see it.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when they leave PRI, they have to fly home. They're not driving.
Right.
I'm in California, so I can drive from Vegas back to San Diego. It's not that bad of a drive. It's a nice drive.
Right.
Flying to the East Coast, you don't want to be loaded down with 200 pounds of decks and proposals and sponsor me packages.
Yeah, well, and that's also true. But I think what I've seen a lot of people do over the years is they get it printed up at like the Kinko's, or what we call it, the Kinko's Office Max or whatever, and then they go pick them up there. So I've gotten some heavy duty stuff, really.
Nice.
Working for Precision Turbo, like, that's, the the one that everybody wants to, not
Yeah.
well. We've got Garrett too. We're a turbo family, right? We're a turbo family.
Do you guys want to hear a funny story about sponsorships and things like that? So
Absolutely.
my first year of SEMA, right? I forget what year it was, right? I was probably like 21. And I didn't know what it was like, right? So I had the intention to go to SEMA to meet companies to try to get sponsored, right? So I'm dressed in a suit, right? And nice shoes. Not that there's not people dressed like that at SEMA, but
That's Apex.
I had no idea how big SEMA was, right?
Your feet were killing you.
So the first day, after the first day, I had blisters on my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
I was
cute.
going up to companies and handing out these professional proposals, in these sleeves and stuff. And I'm like, here you go. This is who I am. And, they're looking
And
at
this
it like,
is who I am. Look at me.
yeah.
Did
Yeah.
it work? Did you get any sponsorships from it?
So I did get some sponsorships from it. Yeah. And I made a connection at GM.
That's
And we talked a little bit back and forth, but nothing came to fruition. You know what I mean? So, but I made a lot of connections. So this is like pre-digital internet. When people had sponsorship proposals, on a PDF or whatever. So it was a good time.
And I think that's what SEMA and PRI are really good for. If you're a driver, a racer, or team member looking to get sponsored or meet sponsors, today, 20 years ago, 15, 10 years ago, it was different. But now today, post-COVID, it's not the best place to actually hand out marketing material because it's getting busy. And the marketing directors, and Alyssa, you can attest to this, you're there trying to sell your product. You're trying to meet distributors and you're trying to meet more retailers to carry your product. And you're selling to the potential end customers why your product needs to be bought. And so now a racer's coming up trying to sell to you while you're paying to sell to others. It's an interruption and it's kind of a pain in the butt. The best thing with SEMA is if you can go a day early or stay a day late and help a company set up their booth or maybe help them carry stuff out to the trucks when they leave. Now you're socializing with them and you're meeting them as opposed to pitching them.
Yep.
And then when you're at the show, talk to them.
I agree. I heard you say that on the podcast I listened to today, and I thought to myself that is such a really nice thing to do, especially say breakdown time. We're exhausted.
Yeah.
We're tired. We've been on our feet for 3 solid days, really 4 days. If you come and help us break down the booth and you have a sponsorship deck, I'm going to give you a much harder look and we're going to create a connection right then and there where I'm not going to be able to forget you because you came and helped us, whether it's small help or big help, whatever it is.
Especially if you bring some drinks and snacks too,
Right. Man, that can go a long way. That's a great first impression. And I really thought that was like so nice.
So one of the things I did this past year at PRI, I brought gifts with me. I think I gave you one. I'm not sure, Alyssa, but I handed out coffee mugs.
I did not get a coffee mug.
I didn't get one either.
What the heck?
Man.
What the heck?
I'll mail it to you guys. But I handed out coffee mugs, and that got me noticed because I wasn't really asking for anything per se. I was kind of saying, hey, this is who I am. Here you go. Made small talk. I know you're busy. This is who I am. I want you to have this. And that opened a lot of doors for me. So it's if you ever read The Go-Giver, it's a great book. It's all about giving before you ask, right? So just but guys, please share this, like it as much as possible, heart it, share it as much as possible. That way your friends can see this because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty on sponsorship, marketing, and racing. So Alex, give us a little bit of background on yourself. Like, how did you get involved in racing and sponsorship, marketing? Give us a rundown.
I come from the action sports industry. So my first career was actually on Wall Street. I worked at an investment bank for about 8 years, made enough money to come to California to start my own business. That was in 1998. I had an internet business. I was one of the first .com companies, and it didn't last forever. It lasted about 5 years, then it burst, and I blew up. So I ended up being the president of an action sports shoe company, Osiris Shoes. I don't know if you guys remember Osiris. It was DC Shoes, Etnies, Avio, Osiris, and Osiris is a small company in a growing industry, and I learned a lot because that's when I first started getting into sponsorships. We had a heavy roster of athletes. Most of them competed in X Games or the Do Tour, and I was writing the sponsorship checks. And one day a friend of mine calls who was hired by a real estate developer bringing short course off-road racing from the Midwest to California. And he said, hey, this is a millionaire wants to grow racing, and he just hired me to run the series. Will you come and work with me? And I was like, well, not really. Don't feel like it, but I did have lunch, and it was an interesting story because when I drove to go meet them for lunch, they told me that the address was an airport. And so I went to the airport where a van picked me up, took me to a helicopter, which then flew me over to Catalina Island, but it didn't land on the island. It landed on this yacht, a yacht called the Triton, which was 167-foot yacht. The helicopter landed on it. The yacht was so big, it had a 10-person full-time staff that lived on it full-time. And I was quite impressed. And then I was introduced to the man who was going to bring short course to California, and he had a very convincing pitch saying, yep, I'm going to do it. It's going to be on NBC Sports. It's going to be on, back then it was Speed Channel. It was already on Speed, but it was going to move it to NBC. And after many more conversations, I decided, okay, why not? I'm going to go join this and try to grow this. And that was Championship Off-Road Racing. So in 2005, I left the action sports industry and went into motorsports. And one of the first roles was just to build the business, which is getting sponsors and, getting new tracks to race at, getting more drivers in. And because I came from action sports, I realized the importance of having strong, powerful names, which bring the athletes with you. So Monster Energy and Rockstar Energy and Red Bull were targets because they would bring their fans and their followers of the athletes. So we really made it easy for Monster Energy to race and Red Bull to start a team and Rockstar. And long story short is after a few years in 2008, the real estate crisis hit. So the developer went bankrupt. And he closed down the series. So I ended up writing the book. And then I went over to Luke. I wrote a book called Explanation, which was an explanation of action sports. And then I went over to Lucas Oil. And at Lucas Oil, I joined a program called Team Lucas, which was all of the motorsports marketing that Lucas did in all the different types of series, from off-road to motocross, to short course, even sprint car racing, drag boats, pro pulling. It was everything. And at Team Lucas is when we really started selling sponsorships. And at first I just sold exposure, like everybody else, probably like you started, Lewis. Yep. You say, hey, you give me money and I'll give you exposure on my helmet, my suit, and my car.
Yep.
And I was offering banners and flags, and at the time TV billboards and things like that. So I learned quickly that wasn't what was attracting anybody. You have to learn to give them value. And after several years of doing that, Lucas decides, well, COVID hit, and then Lucas Oil moved to Indianapolis, and I left shortly before that. And I was going to try to retire, but seeing this opportunity in the world today, back when I left Wall Street to start an internet business, I wasn't wrong. I just couldn't make it happen. I didn't have the staying power. We were part of the .com bust. Today, the same thing is happening in the digital economy. We're in a creator economy. We're in a creator world where, because we're all connected online, if you have something that can be digitized, whether it's a download or a file or a streaming video or a live stream or a link or, anything, a website, you can sell it. And you can sell it either directly or sell it through a membership, and you can monetize that. And we're in a world today that, to me, I see so much opportunity. It drives me crazy that more people aren't trying to have side hustles where they're monetizing creativity in this digital economy, that I figured, well, I'm going to do it. And I didn't know where to start, but what I know is sponsorships. So I realized no one else is educating the athlete community on how to get sponsors. Everyone's trying to sell sponsorship videos and sponsorship advice and this and that, but they're not really putting teams together with sponsors. And so I thought, I'm going to create Meet the Sponsors. So I started a webinar like during COVID. It was literally a year into it or so, where I would have sponsors on the webinar and athletes on the call, and I would interview them, and athletes could then ask the sponsors questions. That sort of morphed into sponsorship summits, where I started hosting first 1 a year, then 2 a year, and now it's up to 6 a year. Summits that I get marketing professionals like you, Alyssa. We get on the summits and we help educate and teach the attendees what brands want from sponsorship. So it's come full circle. I'm still trying to retire, but there's so much opportunity. It's hard.
Well, it's a passion. It's hard to retire from a passion, because I think that you have to be passionate about it to take it as far as you've taken it.
It is. It's an opportunity that you just can't let slip through your fingers, because these don't happen often. I'm 58 years old, and I've seen maybe 3 major opportunities in my lifetime, and this is one of them. The internet revolution was prior to that, and before that, maybe going from landlines to cell phones. How cell phones really changed things and allowed us to communicate. But we're youth that are growing up today don't realize how special this is.
Yeah.
If you can take advantage of it and learn the technology and then make the connections, you can literally elevate yourself where you don't have to have a day job and a boss and a 9-to-5 work schedule. You can build your business through your contacts and your connections. And
I agree.
You see, you're doing the same thing, Lewis, with this YouTube pod. Is it a podcast? Is it a video? What do you call this?
Yeah, it's podcast, video, all that stuff. I actually just wanted to provide some value to the racing community and just provide value to my sponsors, so just a different way of, just not just putting a logo on the car, you know what I mean? So trying to think outside the box. Brad asked, what was the sponsor's expectations 15, 20 years ago compared to the digital age?
That's a great question, because it was so easy back in those days. Primarily, sponsors wanted racers and drivers who would podium and get first, second, or third, because then they would be in the media. They would get all the media coverage, whether it's magazines, newspapers, sometimes television. Most series don't have it. But the winning teams got the media, and the media got the visibility, and that got all the exposure. So sponsors back in the day, when I first started, it was all about exposure. How much exposure can you give me? In fact, at Osiris, we had photo incentives where if one of our athletes, like a skateboarder, we was primarily skateboarding and snowboarding and BMX, and then some freestyle motocross, and then eventually rally. But we would offer incentives. You get us on the cover of a magazine, the photo incentive is $5,000. Numbers aren't exact, they're close. Depends on the magazine, obviously, and the reach. You get us in a magazine, and then the photo incentive would be, let's say, $500. And so you're paying for that exposure. Today, it's not about exposure anymore, because we're all online. Today, it's about connections and value. Sponsors, unless they're a small brand, they don't want exposure. What small brands want and need is exposure, because nobody knows them, but small brands don't have any money, so they can't pay you. They're usually giving you discounts or free product. The larger, the non-endemics, the Monster Energies of the world, Monster doesn't need exposure. Everybody knows Monster. Everybody knows Coca-Cola. Everybody knows Toyota, Ford, Red Bull. What they need is content. They need activation. They need credibility. And so that's how sponsorships have changed. And so drivers now need to represent a brand that represents that brand's image to the public. If a brand is high class or luxury, that's how the driver has to act. If brand is low cost, mass market, well, now you can be who you want. If the brand is like rock star, sex, drugs, and rock and roll back in the day when it first started, you got to be tough and badass. So Red Bull was the exact opposite. They wanted a champion image. So today it's more specific.
Gotcha. Alyssa, I know you have some questions for Alex. Why don't you go ahead and fire them off?
All right. So what would you suggest for a new racer that's just starting out? How do you suggest a new racer, say somebody who's got a pretty decent race program, they may be involved in something that, let's just take TV out of it, right? Because we know right now the landscape is changing with, we know that NHRA is televised, but now Street Outlaws, No Prep Kings is not. I don't know if you're connected in that world or whatever, but it has gone live stream. So now things have changed in that landscape. But my question would be, how do you suggest a new racer or someone with a very small program, let's just say small program, approaches a sponsor? And what is the justification in your mind? It's kind of a two-tier question. If someone is just starting out and they haven't really proven themselves, do you tell that person that, hey, you've got to hit the pavement, you've got to get out there, you've got to race, you've got to show your value, you're trying to bring some sort of value? So what is the advice that you give to new racers that have new programs that are just trying to make the connection and build their value?
So the first thing is don't sell yourself because you don't have anything yet to sell. If you're brand new, just starting out, you're a great racer, you're doing awesome at the track, getting podiums, but you really don't have any value to offer, don't sell it. Give it away. Your goal now is to meet sponsors, not to scare them away. And if you try to sell yourself, as everybody on the call knows, 99 times out of 100, maybe even 999,000 times out of 100,000, you're going to get rejected. You're not going to get a call back. You're going to get ghosted. It's because many factors, and we can go into those in a minute. But at the beginning, when someone's just starting out, it's real important to get to know people and let them to get to know you, to know whether or not you have the integrity and the image and the morals that the sponsor wants to attach to. And do they like you? Can you call them up on a Sunday afternoon? Lewis, you texted me a couple of days ago and said, hey, I'd like you to be on the podcast. I'm like, sure, absolutely. We got on the phone, we talked. You have to have your relationship to that point where you're comfortable enough with somebody that they'll take your call and you'll take theirs. So the beginning racers need to form relationships first before trying to sell. One of the biggest problems I see is that they're always selling. And then they become the pesky salesperson.
Right.
For sure.
They walk up to the sponsor's like, oh shit, not him again.
Right.
Yep.
Here's the sales pitch. As opposed to, oh, last time they brought me Starbucks. Awesome. Come on over. Come on in the pits. Let's hang out.
Yep.
Sponsors take a long time to make decisions. The decision is not made overnight or in a day. It's usually 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years. With Polaris, it took 5 years before I got a deal done with them. But it's time that you then can use to get to know them and they can get to know you.
Right. One of the sponsors I landed for this season, I landed because we started talking about bourbon. So I love bourbon, like, good quality bourbon, and he does too. So we started talking about different brands and flavors, and all I did was I sent him a bottle of one of my favorite bourbons.
Nice.
And we were just we didn't talk about sponsorship or anything like that. We were just talking about bourbon back and forth, and we were texting each other, sending pictures to each other about bottles and things like that. And then we got into this discussion of racing and, things like that. And, it landed a big sponsorship. Actually, it was a product sponsorship, but they helped out tremendously. So it was, again, it's just about relationships and building that relationship first.
And that's the way to do it, because part of building that relationship is showing them who you are so that they can trust you with their brand's message. And now let me explain that for a second. I have a philosophy, and it's really come out since COVID. I'm starting to talk a lot about it, that the best marketing directors are not the ones that are sitting behind four walls, behind a desk, in front of a computer, marketing. That's not marketing. When you're marketing, you're face to face. You're shaking hands with customers. You're looking them in the eye. You're telling them the story of the product and the brand and the company. Marketing is face to face. Marketing is in person. And you can't be everywhere and market to everybody at the same time. Santa Claus can do it, but most marketers can't. You can't be at every event on a weekend. So you need your ambassadors to be there for you. You need someone who can go on your behalf. And that person who goes on your behalf is your brand ambassador. They're your extension of your marketing arm at an event that a marketer can't go to or might not have the resources at the time, but they have to know that you're going to represent them in a way that's consistent with the brand's image. They have to know that you're going to be professional or maybe crazy, depends on what the brand is. They have to know that you're liked and trusted so that when you tell the story or talk about the product, people listen and believe it. And that's the important part. And that's what you have to do first, is establish that relationship and that trust among marketing directors so that they go, oh, wow, Indy 500 is next week. I can't go to it, but let me send so-and-so. Or,
right.
There's an event coming up. I can't make it. Let me send so-and-so. And the reason they like that is because it gives marketing directors their time back. Now they have their weekends back. They can go to their kids' ball games. They can go to, family functions. They can go to birthday parties. We're all in racing. We don't have weekends anymore. If you're in the racing industry, you don't get weekends. You're
right. That's right.
Maybe Thursday, but you're working the rest of the weekend. So if you can give a marketing director their time back, that's huge. But they have to trust that you're going to represent their brand the right way.
100%.
They know you. They won't.
And that takes the time. That takes time and a lot of effort because it can't be one-sided.
And it doesn't just happen in one call either, or one meeting.
Right.
That's funny that you answered that. Because that was actually going to be my next question. Like, what type of services should racers offer besides, hey, the logo on the car thing? You know what I mean? Because everyone thinks sponsorship is, let me put your logo on my car. And that's not sponsorship anymore. Used to be many years ago. You know what I mean? But not anymore. So,
and one of the things that you can offer is, so we're in a world today where competition doesn't have to be competition. Competition can actually be friendly. The example I want to give is when I worked at Lucas Oil, if you needed oil for your truck or your car, you have a choice. It's either AMSOIL or Valvoline or Havoline, Mobil One, Lucas, whoever. And only one brand, one company got that sale. But in a digital world, if you have compelling content, and let's say you're monetizing that content, anybody can sell it. In fact, 5 or 6 or even 10 or all the different competitors can sell it. If there's a great video or a show that AMSOIL and Lucas Oil and Motul and Liqui and Maxima, and they can all market, then they can all share in the proceeds. So in the physical world, we have competition. Only one company is going to get that sale. In the digital world, that sale can be split among an endless number of allies who are using it to sell that digital product. So if you think about sponsorships, if you are the connection for different brands, that if all of your sponsors cross promote each other, and if you're making connections between, let's say, a wheel company and a tire company and an oil company and a shop company and a turbocharger company, then they can all market each other and they can all help each other. And that's what's really important, is making those connections. And I think companies will look for people to do that today, because the way the algorithms are changing, like TikTok and YouTube, you don't really need followers to go viral.
We were just talking about that. Yeah. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
The algorithm stuff is so confusing. I feel like they keep us confused just to keep us, chasing our tails on. I mean, it just keeps us constantly trying to put content up.
Seeing what works and what doesn't work.
And as that and brand ambassador, maybe that person, that writer, that team doesn't need to be making the content themselves if they're connected with companies or others who they can attach their content to. So it makes sense. If you're just starting out, going back to the question you asked earlier, what does a starting out person do? They have no followers on social media. It's okay. You don't need followers today. If your content is compelling, you can give it to someone who does have followers and they'll send it.
Right. Providing your sponsor with valuable content has got to be one of the key ingredients, period, in today's landscape anyways, so the digital age that we're in. Because I mean, that's what me, as someone who runs the social media, runs the marketing, I need all of that. I need your content. So
I'm hearing that more and more. And that's to go back to the caller's question is, honestly, that's how things have differed from 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we were selling exposure and wins. Hey, I'm going to be on the podium. Today, no, it's how you can reach people, not necessarily with your own following, but with the following of your network.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, Alyssa, we were talking about this last week about how, in the past, some of the people you've sponsored, you would ask for content and it would be like pulling teeth.
I'm dealing with that. Yeah, I deal with that actually currently as I sit here. I've developed some new processes, and there's a new program that we've recently signed up for. And it's like, and it may be something that would be beneficial for you to bring to your people. But basically, all they do is click a link. You'll have like maybe say 3 or 4 questions from me about my brand, about the brand that we sponsor. And it takes like 2 minutes. It's called Vocal Video, and you record a video. You hold your phone. It's called vocalvideo.com. It's a little on the pricey side, so it would be something that a company would use, not a racer, right? But basically they submit a testimonial, and it's like a very candid, hey guys, like this is how XYZ company has helped my racing program. And you don't have to download anything. You don't have to do it. You just have to take the 2 minutes to answer the questions on a video. And then what it does is it basically populates the video in a way, either vertical or horizontal, that I can use for our social media, and I can create testimonials and things like that. It's so great. And we do a lot of sponsorship. I'm not going to name names. I'm not even going to say which company it's for. I work for 3 different brands, but because people will know that I'm calling them out. But it's like, why is it that we've provided you with a product for years, long before I ever came along, and now I've put these processes in place, and there's more accountability, and I'm sending these texts out to these what would be influencer status racers that have very big followings, and they can't even take the 2 minutes to do it, and it is very, very upsetting from my perspective.
Yeah,
I want to check that out. Localvideo.com. I'm going to check
Local Video. It's great. It is great.
Guys, if there's a huge storm going on right now. I don't know if you heard the thunder and stuff and lightning, but hopefully my internet doesn't go out. But this storm is big.
Yeah, we've had a lot. I live in Louisiana, Alex, and it's been a bad weather week for us, really bad. So we're like underwater right now.
Send us some rain. We need it bad.
Yeah, I know. You guys usually do.
We've gotten way too much rain already. A lot of races have been canceled. Weekends have been canceled. A lot of the track owners up here have been upset because you can't drag race in the rain. So they haven't been able to open a lot of weekends this year so far. But Brad asks, is there a level of using a sponsor to a point where you eventually have to leave? How is the relationship with a sponsor if you feel you have exhausted their full level of involvement? It's a pretty good question there.
So a lot of sponsors, they'll start with giving a coupon or a discount or maybe a gift card or gift certificate, something like that. That's how a lot of sponsorships start. Then they transition over to free product. From free product, it might go to free product plus cash, and that's good. Now you're getting paid. And if you're getting paid and it's enough value that you're creating for the brand and they're compensating you for that, then if the brand is growing and what you're doing really works, then as the brand grows, they should be able to increase that compensation. A lot of times the brands don't grow though. Not because of your marketing, just the brand doesn't grow. So, they're looking at many different things. So what you can try to do is to renegotiate as opposed to product and money. Now try to get the brand to promote you and tap into their publicity, tap into their marketing, be on the cover of their catalog, be on the cover of their website. Now you can start to negotiate visibility within that sponsor's other assets, marketing assets. They don't only market to sell products. They sometimes develop books and catalogs, and that's part of marketing. And then they have media kits, and that's part of marketing. So maybe you can be in those and place your other sponsors in those products. So that your car is going to be on the cover of your sponsor's latest product catalog. Well, now you're showing off 5 of your other sponsors who are on your car. So the catalog doesn't usually go to consumers, the end consumer. The catalog usually goes to the distributor or the retailer. You have the manufacturer, the distributor, the retailer, then the end customer. And if the catalog has your logo and a bunch of other logos on the cover of a catalog that stores are going to get, then potentially those stores will see the logos of your other customers or your other sponsors, and maybe they'll start to carry those products. So you can lever a current sponsorship into creating more value for other sponsors. It's kind of a long way to say that, but if one sponsor, you feel like you're tapped out, not doing very much, I'm not getting enough out of it, you might still be able to get more, not for yourself, but for your other sponsors out of that one brand. And then by getting more from the others, they pay you more. So don't forget about putting the sponsors together and working them together, and so that they all cross promote. Because if one runs a freeway billboard and 5 of your other sponsors get that visibility, you got 100,000 cars a day going by seeing it. There's a little bit of exposure for those old school companies.
Yep.
If I'm creating viral media that now 1 million people see, and it promotes the brand because all these sponsors made it happen, there's the value.
Yeah. So we kind of did something similar. I used to work for a performance wholesale distributor of parts. And that's actually how I started my relationship with Garrett Turbochargers. I've been dealing with them for many years, but we kind of did a three-way type of, not that type of three-way, but three-way partnership where it was Garrett Turbos, right? And we also sold Motul lubricants, right? And it was a video of a turbocharged race car with a Garrett turbo in it, pouring oil in the car, right? And then, in the video it said you can get this at, my wholesale distributor, right? So it all worked. It kind of fed everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's perfect, because when you work for sponsors, you're only going to go to one race on a weekend, and you're only going to take one photo per shot. So is that one photo for one sponsor, or is it for all the sponsors? Some sponsors want that exclusivity and they need that. And very rarely at the amateur level, but often at the higher professional level, they often can't show logos of other brands and other companies, or they won't because of their individual partnerships and distributorships. That's fine. At the amateur grassroots level, at the level where most of the racers are who are watching this and who I reach with my education seminars and summits, it's okay to show a variety of sponsors and take one video or one photo and let it satisfy the content needs of 4 or 5, maybe 6 different companies. Because if the quality of that video is good and it looks good and all the sponsors promote it, people will start to see it over and over and over. Remember, when you're creating content, you're not just creating content for you to post on social media. That's half of it. You're also creating content to give to your sponsors that they will post, and maybe
exactly.
in catalogs, magazines, calendars, point of purchase displays. There's a lot of places where a sponsor might use your media as well. And if they're sharing it on social, hey, that benefits everybody. So try to get as many sponsors in there as you can without diluting it. They call that sponsor soup when there's too many.
Nice.
Oh, I've never heard that. Lewis, I wanted you to touch on the youth in motorsports. You had raised the question about, or you had made the point about the Wes Buck show, talking about that 17-year-old NHRA racer that is getting, like, I don't know, what is she, pro stock? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So Sienna Wildgust, Wes Buck was basically saying on his last show that Sienna, she's 17, I can't remember if they said she's the youngest pro stock driver ever or the youngest female pro stock driver ever. And apparently NHRA has yet to kind of introduce themselves in a sense, and say, hey, is there anything you need? How can we help you grow in this sport? There's always been a disconnect, so I've heard. I've never raced NHRA at the national level, but I've always heard from other racers that have been involved in the national program. There's a disconnect between corporate NHRA and the racers. So that's basically what I was talking to you about on the phone, is like, and Wes Buck was saying that, the stats show that right now it's the lowest percentage of youth drag racers being involved right now, because kids, they don't want to be outside. They want to be inside playing video games and hanging out with their friends digitally, right? And that's just the nature of the beast. I'm seeing it as well in my business. I own a jiu-jitsu studio, and a lot of kids nowadays don't even want to exercise or anything like that. So What do you think about that, Alex? And youth and motorsports?
Well, we can't change youth. We have to adapt to their habits.
Yes.
So I realize having 4 kids, I'm not going to change them. We can't invite them to our playground and assume they're going to have fun. In fact, my son's now 20, but when he was about 9 or 10, I asked if he wanted to go to one of the drag boat races that I was going to. And he looked at me and he says, "Dad, I would rather," and he thought about it. He goes, "I would rather get stuck on a roller coaster upside down." Upside down, and I was like, "Oh, that was good." Stuck on a
Curious.
upside
He
down.
meant that. Wow, he did not want to go.
Really? You don't want to go to the races with me? You'd rather do that? So it's not fun for them sometimes, because when you go to a race, you're sitting in the grandstands and you're watching others have fun. And I'm talking about the spectator perspective now. I know that you asked a question about a racer, but now let's think about it like this. What do youth like today? You just said it. They like video games. They like to be online. They like to be in constant communication with 1,000 friends that they've never met, but they're trying to impress all these people they've never met before because they have this digital community. Well, let's go there. Let's invite that digital community into what we do. Sim racing is getting quite popular. I don't know if it's a great way to make money anymore because of the dilution. There's a physical number of tracks that you can race at in the real world, but online there can be an infinite number of digital tracks. So they can keep copying them over and over, and all these different online series. Because they can be infinite. I don't know if there's ever going to be a lot of money there, but you can practice at certain tracks now, and it's just as good as the actual flat track. I mean, it's crazy how realistic some of these simulators are. In Formula One, they practice on simulators. In all racing series, all the top racing series, they all practice on simulators now. So if there's a way to engage youth, maybe use the youth to show their old school sponsors and the old school brands that are involved in racing and old school NHRA mentality. Show them how to incorporate what interests youth, which is communicating on handhelds. That's the number one form of communication. They're not looking at race programs. I remember at Core, like 2005, 2006, it was very interesting. When people came through the gates, I would watch who would take the race program, because one year I put my son on the cover. He was racing trophy carts, and I was like all excited. Yay, everybody's going to see this. Kids weren't grabbing it. Some old people were grabbing a race program, but a lot of the young people didn't care. And I was like, that's interesting. Nobody cares about physical, or at least the youth didn't care about physical print material at the time, but they are online. So I encourage NHRA, or I encourage any racing series, to find where youth are passionate and go to their playground and go into their interests and connect with them that way. Video games, I guess, is and sim racing is probably the most popular and the fastest growing right now, especially since COVID. It's something that I don't know very much about. I've been asked many times to do a sim summit. I might. I won't be the expert. I'll just assemble the experts. But I'd like to know what others are doing, because I'm very curious if there's more ways to take advantage of the opportunity that you don't have to be at a physical track to race anymore.
Right.
And I know with King of the Hammers, and I know with off-road racing, they're now going to make it pretty soon. It's going to be possible where you can race during the actual race where the competitors and physical cars are. You're going to be able to race from your living room on a video game or in a simulator. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me.
That's wild. I never imagined.
What do you think, Alyssa? What's your opinion on it?
I agree with you, Alex. I think that is a good point. I just don't know how. I think that the NHRA group is stuck in another place, in another headspace. I think it's owned and run by a lot older people. It's a very hard thing to break into. It's kind of like, what would you tell her? How would you tell a 17-year-old who's got the passion and the drive to go do something like this on such a high level? How would you tell her to get her exposure? If they're not really even showing this kid love, which is disappointing. I hate that. I just finished a sponsorship with he was 14 years old, but he's just turned 15, a 15-year-old from Ireland, who is going to be on the pro drifting circuit. I mean, he's going to be a big deal, and I see such a huge future for him. So I pushed for it, and it has gone very well. And you know what? That kid is hammering out the content. He's got tons of content coming my way. I've got to balance it so it doesn't seem like I'm giving him too much, you know? But that really, we should be elevating the youth in that way.
Well, thank you for doing that, because we do need youth to be more involved in motorsports, more interested in motorsports, and spectating motorsports. The future is in youth. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it really made me happy. It was a big highlight a couple months ago for me. So I was really excited about that. I've got another question, and this one comes up pretty frequently. As someone who's on the receiving end of proposals and decks, I would rather hear it from you, because you're much more polished with this. What is the difference for the racers? What's the difference between a deck and a proposal?
Yeah, there's actually 3 documents that everybody needs to know about it: deck, proposal, and a proof of performance report. One is to fish and to meet people. The other one is to close deals. And the third is to renew the deals long term. And if you think about it, year 1 of a sponsorship, that's not very long, year 1. But now you go to year 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. This is what you're looking for. When you're seeking sponsors, you want this, not year 1. The deck helps you meet that sponsor, meet that person, and get acquainted with that company, so that they can get to know you, you can get to know them. Remember, we said we have to get to know somebody first at the very beginning. So the deck,
it's a first impression. It is the first impression now in the digital age, where we're getting these through emails.
Yeah, absolutely. So the deck can be eye candy. It can be a website. It can be a video. It can be a PDF file. It can be a marketing brochure. Deck could be anything that gets someone attention, that they say, I'd like to have a conversation with this person and ask a few questions and continue learning a little more. The deck is what gets you on the phone or gets that first meeting for you. That's all a deck does. Once you get that first meeting, the deck has done its job. You don't need a deck anymore. Now you need to learn that company's business. You need to know their products. You need to know their products better than the person that you're speaking to, so that you can then describe how you're going to sell those products through your race program. And once you've come up with a pretty logical way, and once they know you, you know them, and you know their brand, and you know how you can sell their products through your racing, or help them sell products, whether it's through links and other marketers or other companies, or B2B or affiliate links, whatever it is, however you can then add value to that company, then once you think that you're ready to propose to them, then you write a proposal. And the proposal is just a Word doc. It is what you're going to do for them and what you expect in return. The proposal often becomes a legal document. It'll have a term. It'll have a begin date and an end date. It'll assign rights, whether there's exclusivity. And the proposal goes into the nitty gritty. This is what I'll do for you officially if you sign the contract. And if they sign that, yay, now you've done a deal. So the deck is to meet a sponsor. A deck is for a person. You're using a deck to meet a person. A proposal is to get a company to partner with you. And now once they do that and they say yes, and you got a sponsor, the most important thing is this long term. You need them to renew. And now the more important document is the proof of performance. And these are the aftermarket reports. Every event that you do, whether it's racing or non-racing, you don't have to race to represent a company or create value. You can do a lot of things when you're not racing. In fact, more value is created when you're not racing. Once you start doing things for a brand and a company, and it can be printed, you can take a picture of you at a, let's say, autograph signing, or there's a media created, or you can take a screenshot of an online article, or actually print a real article or photocopy something that's in a magazine or newspaper. If you're not getting media, just call your local newspaper company and write some articles about yourself. They'll always print it. Local papers.
They really will.
They always do.
Yeah.
So the proof of performance report is when you take all the printouts of everything you've done, and you give that at the end of the year to your sponsor and say, hey, look, this is how I got you into the media. This is what I did for you. This is how I was working for you. And that's usually how they renew. So look at that proof of performance report and they'll go, wow. Most of them will always say, wow, I didn't realize you did all this stuff, because they're not watching you race all year long. They're not watching you race. They don't know your results. You need to educate them on that, throughout the year, but don't be pesky or you're going to annoy them. But you do want to show them at the end of the year everything you've done, not that you got on the podium. Proof of performance is not about you. I won 6 races. I'm the champion. I did this. I did that. No.
It's a partnership.
It's how well did your sponsor do? Was your
Right.
sponsor on the podium with you? Did your sponsor help you win? Did the products of the sponsor, or is their logo visible in the media that you got? So proof of performance is about what you did for the sponsor all year long, in addition to your racing. You can win every race in the world, but sponsor logo is never shown, they're not going to renew.
Right.
So
Right.
there are 3 documents. The deck attracts attention, and you don't give the same deck to every company because the
Right.
deck needs to show what you can do for a company. Beverage companies, different companies have different needs. Beverage companies want sampling. They Monster, Rockstar, Red Bull. I wouldn't even approach them because they're so oversaturated with teams that it's a waste of time to go after them. But go after their competitors, because
Right.
Celsiuses of the world, the Bangs of the world, all these other energy drinks of the world, there's something there. And I know, Lewis, you know one too. So
Yep.
I won't give it up because I know you're going after a new energy drink. But they're the ones who want sampling. They want people to try their product. So your deck has to show how your racing can offer sampling. Let's say a tool manufacturer, they want to show that their tools work. So they
Right.
want hands-on use. In the pits, they want you to grab a hand tool and just try it out and see if it works and see if you like it. Insurance company, insurance is more top of mind, like a battery company as well. When you buy insurance, it's not something you want to buy. It's something you kind of have to buy.
Right.
So insurance companies want to make it fun. They want to make it happy. They want a good feeling. So your deck to an insurance company has to show how your race team will make people feel good about insurance. Maybe not insurance, but about the
Because
brand.
people they don't want to buy it. They want to, yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. So it can't be a one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly.
If I ever received a proof of performance report from anyone that I ever worked on a sponsorship for, I would probably have a heart attack. I would have.
Nobody does.
Get ready,
Never,
Alyssa.
it has never happened.
I'll tell you, all the big sponsorships, and I'm talking $1 million and more, and the large ones, they all have it.
Yeah.
They have a team that will create it. So
right. I mean, this is such high. You're on such another level, but I think that this is so valuable, even for the people that are just starting out. Like you don't have to have $1 million program to provide a value to and create the relationship with a sponsor. And I think that so much is missing. So many opportunities for us as manufacturers that want to get our products out there, and for racers, because there is a major disconnect when, and really solidified in this conversation, like there is a huge disconnect. So people have to think bigger, and I think that's really what your experience is, because you're dealing with such high level racing and a lot of money obviously is at stake. We're kind of like, hey, I can give you some parts. I can't give you money. That's where we're at, right?
Well, there was high level money in the past. Now I'm dealing all with grassroots. Now everything is low dollar, starting with product. So I'm right there with you.
Oh,
and
amazing.
you don't need $1 million program to look like you have $1 million program and to act like a $1 million program.
Perception is reality.
$1 million sponsors, their sponsored teams, they're providing all of this to their sponsors. So you can too, even though you're not $1 million team, act like one.
Yeah, one of the best examples of like thinking outside the box, Pro Stock Gordo markets Rush energy drink, right? And he one of the coolest things I thought he's ever done, he got this like book bag, this digital book bag. So he put like phrases and ads like while walking around the track, and I never seen anything like that. And he had like Rush energy drink, across the back, and like, it was like scrolling. I was like, something so simple, that,
Great
he's
idea.
a racer, but he was walking around, the pits, with this backpack, you just gotta do things that are not just putting a sticker on your car. You know what I mean?
You're working for the sponsor. If you're sponsored, now you have a relationship with a company that's paying you to represent them. And so you're not to sit around in the pits and wait for something to happen. That's not representation. You're constantly working. You're an employee of the company at the event that they can't reach and they're not there because they don't have the time. Act like an employee of that company. What would the owner of that company do if they were at the event? They'd be walking around meeting people. They'd be promoting the brand. They'd be talking about the products.
Right.
And that's what you should do. That's why companies are sponsoring you. If you do that, you will get sponsored. If you don't do that, you probably won't get sponsored or renewed. Anyway, you might get a sponsor 1 year, but they're not going to renew if they don't see you working for them.
Let's talk about the other side from a company or manufacturer's standpoint, because you've been on that side. Alyssa's obviously on that side currently. How can companies leverage and benefit from their sponsorship racers, like obviously racers that they sponsor? How can they make more sales through their racers? Because a lot of companies they might sponsor a racer, but they might not know how to leverage that sponsorship.
Sponsorship training is something that is overlooked by a majority of the companies that I've worked with or dealt with. They write a check, they sign a deal, they sponsor somebody, and then they expect the team to go off and know exactly what they want. And that's never the case. Team doesn't know what a brand wants, and a brand doesn't usually know what a team's going to do. So there needs to be, at least at the very beginning of a sponsorship of every season, the sponsor, the brand, the company needs to very clearly articulate what their strategy is for that season or that year, often a fiscal year, what their new products that are coming out that are going to be launched. And this is especially true with manufacturers, the big manufacturers like car manufacturers. If Toyota has a new Tundra version coming out, 99.9% of their marketing budget is going to go to market that new Tundra. So the goal of the team should be market that Tundra, not the other brands or not the other cars in the company or the logo of the brand. So it's real important at the beginning of a sponsorship for the company and the teams that represent the company to be on the same page so that they're all pushing the same agenda for that quarter or season or year. Because a lot of teams think that all they have to do once they're sponsored is show the logo. Oh, I'm sponsored by Holly. Let me promote Holly everywhere they go. Holly, 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 Holly. And they do a great job of promoting Holly. But what if Holly had this new, whatever, I was going to say carburetor, but I know we're going EV now. So what if Holly has a new product that they're launching? Well, that's now what you need to be promoting instead of the brand's name. And that's one thing. That's one step. I'd like to hear what Lissa has to say, because I know she does this full time. This is her job.
I think that you really hit the nail on the head with the articulating the expectations right straight out of the gate. So I've created a new agreement for sponsorships where I outline what I want to see. These are bare minimum. This is what I expect as the bare minimum, like bottom line effort, but I want you to do more, right? So part of what I'm bringing to the table with this team that I've recently joined with these 3 brands is like the formality. Everything needs to be in writing. These handshake agreements and got to go away, because handshake agreements, no, I know that you don't do handshake agreements or you're not used to handshake agreements because you're doing high level money wise, but a lot of handshake agreements are still in existence right now, and we're not getting anything out of these handshake agreements. So outlining exactly what we expect. And I really think that there is some value in me as the person who handled the sponsorship, picking up the phone and saying, hey, racer, like, I just wanted to check in with you, make sure you have everything you need. How's it going? To kind of motivate them to feel like you care, because we want to feel like they care. They want to feel like we care. And I think that that's part of building that relationship. But definitely being really clear on your expectations is key. And also the racer needs to be clear on, hey, if I can't deliver that to you, or I think you're asking me for too much, they need to also be honest and upfront about their intentions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to play a ball game if you have different strategies. The reason why footballers huddle is because they have a play, and everyone's going to perform exactly as to what they're supposed to do for that specific play at that specific moment. And each play is different. And companies are the same way. They have a strategy of how they're going to sell their product, but they have tactics that they're going to take in order to implement that strategy. And you have to know, where do you fit into that tactic? Is your job to promote at a certain track and shake people's hands? Is your job to hand out flyers, hand out QR codes? Is your job to create content? What is your job specifically? And then it even goes a little bit further, is what type of content? What length of content? Is the content vertical format? Is the content horizontal format? Is the content 30 seconds long or 3 seconds? Is it 5 minutes? Is it for YouTube, TikTok? Is it for Facebook? Or is it for a dealer first show that they're going to play at SEMA? Is it for the television set that's playing on the screens at PRI? You know, what's the content? If they know what specifically the purposes of their marketing, and when you're representing a brand, you're marketing for that brand, then it's much easier to be on the same page.
I agree. Brad asked, how detrimental is if you don't fulfill a sponsor's requirements?
That happens all the time. As long as you communicate with the sponsor that you can't, or something goes on, you know, we're all human, we're all people. And if you communicate it and get ahead of it, usually if they like you and they know you, it's forgivable. If you don't say anything and they find out about it later, that's usually a problem.
Yeah.
So you can ask Alyssa on this one. It's better to speak about that.
I don't want to find out on Facebook. I don't want to find out on your Facebook Live. Let's put it like that.
Or on the ratio.
To attend an event.
On the ratio.
Life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't make an event. Sometimes your car doesn't work. Sometimes you really perform very poorly. Oh shit, I forgot the batteries for the camera. There's so many things that can go wrong. Just be honest about it. That's all. You still have the rest of the year to market, and you can offset that some other way.
John Gentry knows exactly what I'm talking about. We've got a comment in there. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think that anytime there's any changes with programs, the sponsors that provide the parts, whatever's going to be changed out, if you've got to switch, sometimes things happen. You should reach out to that sponsor and say, this is the deal. And you don't do it a day before. You know that this has been brewing for a minute. You're a racer. You're racing every week. You know that, hey, this isn't working for my program anymore. I've got to make a change, whatever that might be. I've got to change brands. Don't let them find out on your Facebook Live, you know? So,
they are looking, right, Alyssa? They are.
Oh, absolutely. I lurk. I am like the ultimate. I'll be lurking at like 6:30 in the morning. I will be laying in bed lurking. I am always watching.
And not just for sponsored drivers, but as soon as you submit a proposal or send a deck, or as soon as you start talking with a sponsor, they're going to look you up.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
They're going to know everything about you before that first call.
Yep.
Right.
I think I was talking to you, Alex. I'm prospecting. Well, not prospecting. We're already in the phase of I sent them a proposal, and you know, they're trying to make a decision on whether they want to work with me or not. But that restoration company, that flood restoration company or whatever, that marketing director knew everything about me before we even got on our first call. Like
Nice.
she
that's impressive. That's impressive. That's, you know, that shows that they care enough to take the time.
It means they're interested.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
They will you up.
Yeah.
And I also think that one thing I wanted to kind of just mention on this show, you know, dealing with the sponsorships on the level that I deal with, when you approach us about a sponsorship, whatever the product might be, or money, whatever it is that you're looking for, be very clear with what you want. Don't be like, hey, here's my thing. I just wanted to know if you guys wanted to sponsor me. Well, what do you want? And what does that partnership look like? You know, tell me more. And that is the question that hangs people up. In a perfect world, what does a partnership between you as a racer and us as the sponsor look like? Explain it to me in your own words. And I mean,
you know why that happens? I'll tell you exactly why that happens, because you're right. And I hear that increasingly a lot now. I hear a lot now that I'm working with teams to get sponsored. And that's because the team did not do their homework as to what the company creates or considers value. The team is looking for money or product to lower their cost. The team needs 10 grand, so they're asking for 10 grand, but they're not looking at the company to see what the company needs. If you know what the company needs, then you can then in your proposal say, this is what I'll do for you. Maybe estimate the cost of the company to do that would be 10 grand. So I'll do it for 5. And then at least you have a better idea of where you can price yourself, as if you know what the company is looking for. If you don't know what the company is looking for, how do you know? And that's the problem, is they send that proposal too soon. They have the relationship, they're talking to somebody, they have that communication going, but then they throw out, hey, I want to be sponsored by you, without fully thinking it through, like you're saying, and without having a reason and a value and maybe a dollar price or quantity of product. So
exactly. But ask for what you want. Be very clear. Come to the table and say, this is my setup. This is my program. And this is what I need. This is what I would, you know, and this is what I can provide for you. Don't make me ask you all these questions, you know, like come with give it a little more effort.
I agree. Yeah.
I see that all the time too.
Yeah. um, so you kind of, this is a question for both of you. Alyssa, you kind of touched on this just now a little bit, but what are some of the things racers shouldn't do? Like, what are some of the craziest requests or things you've seen racers do that they shouldn't?
So I don't really have anything too crazy. Just the way they represent themselves on social media sometimes is like so cringe. It just like, oh my gosh, if I were the sponsor of that person, I would pull that sponsorship immediately. I wouldn't want my brand associated with something like what I was seeing. There was somebody that was, anyways, we're not even going to get into the nitty gritty details, but yeah, but you get what I'm saying. Like, perception is reality. If you want to look professional, you've got to play the part. You got to play the part all the time, not just while you're racing. And at 10 o'clock when the race is over, then you're drunk and you're acting insane, and you've got live videos of you in the pits and doing all kinds of things that are very not nice. So, and saying things that are not nice too. You have to make sure that your values align with your sponsor's values, and I think that that's something that you will figure that out if you spend enough time getting to know your sponsor. You'll know how they feel about certain things. You'll be able to feel it out. It's just like dating, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, you don't ask somebody to marry you the second day you send your second selfie to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know.
What
I don't
about
have
you,
any
Alex?
I don't have any crazy stories. If that's what you're looking for, some tea, I don't have it.
No, nothing. What about you, Alex? When you were working with like Lucas Oil or whatever, you see anything crazy or?
Well, so when a company says yes, that's great. When it says no, I find that often means not yet. And when they say maybe, it'll drive you crazy because the maybe just sort of keeps you hanging. When a company says no and you get angry and I don't know, I've seen it many times where it's disturbing and they get spiteful and they make a bad post or they reply to an email, well, I didn't want you anyway, or whatever. No doesn't mean no. No just means not yet. So always keep that door open. Don't burn your bridges because they said no this year, because maybe next year you're perfect for them. Maybe this year it just wasn't in the budget. Maybe nobody's in the budget. So meet everybody and all sponsors and form relationships and form good relationships with them. Don't assume that just because they said no, that it means it's over forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be persistent either. If they say maybe, let them make a decision. You've already made your pitch. Now just stay in front of them. You don't have to keep reselling and reselling and reselling, because then it becomes annoying.
Right.
So I found that the best sponsorships are the ones that they come after many years of getting to know somebody and they know you. And like, again, I said, the Polaris one came 5 years in. I worked with them 5 years before we finally did a deal. But by then I knew exactly what they wanted and they knew exactly what we were able to do. But they said no 4 times, 4 years in a row before that.
I told you, it's kind of like dating, like it really is. It's you have to court them in a way. I mean, really, truly, you've got to impress them.
Just stay in touch, at the very least, stay in touch and form that relationship. Don't view them as a sponsor. Try to view them as a friend if you can. And then if your friend is the marketing director of a brand that you want to be sponsored by, that's even better.
Right. Right. I always tell racers, they're like, how can I find sponsors? I was like, well, who's in your network? Your immediate network, which one of your friends might own a company or something like that. Obviously just don't go up to your friend and be like, hey, can I have some money? Obviously, you kind of have to, again, it's like Alyssa said, it's like almost like dating, right? You kind of have to like feel it out. You might not want to talk about it the first few times you go out for dinner or drinks with your friend. You know what I mean? So that's more of like a third date type of thing. You know what I mean? Then,
and after you're sponsored for a while, you actually will become friends with the people who are sponsoring you. So
for sure,
that's the level you want to get it to.
Yeah, exactly. Scotty Wheels said, I work with a ton of companies. He owns a full, performance shop. They service cars, race cars. They tune cars. They sell parts. So he said, I work with a ton of companies, and free parts are not even 10%. Many will give discounts, maybe their cost minus 10%, but as far as free, not usually in the budget for most I've seen. It depends on the company. I work with companies that, some give me free parts, some don't. You know what I mean? It all depends on the company's budget and things like that. And um, you just got to try to build that relationship somewhere. You know what I mean? It's just,
Even if you're just getting a 10% off discount, even
Yep.
if you're just getting the, whatever, even if you're just getting the small discount, that's a place to start. That's the toe in the door. That shows that you're willing to buy the product. You're willing to support the company that you're trying to approach for sponsorship. And that you're willing to run the product. So, it's not much, right? You could probably get a better deal if you call, Joe Blow Racing down the road. Will give it to you for, $5 over dealer cost. But you see what I'm saying? I think that I think if you are willing to make a purchase of some sort, that is an in as well. Especially if you make a purchase and you say, "Hey, I've been running your product for a year and I love it. I would love to figure out how I can work as a brand ambassador for your products." That's another approach that you can make.
And a lot of it has to do with the type of company. If it's an endemic brand, a brand that's an automotive brand,
Yes.
that's in the car industry or in the motorsports industry, and their parts are improving your performance, then it's quite common to just get a discount or a gift certificate or free product. It works up to the free
Right.
product. If it's a non-endemic brand, if it's a food or a beverage company, they have to buy their way in.
Right, that's true.
Make them pay. They're the ones
Yeah.
that have to write the check. The endemic brands, if they can give you parts, that helps you. That's
Right.
money. Money saved is a penny saved is a penny earned. So
Yep.
it's
For sure.
the candy companies and the drink companies. They're not
That's true.
helping you.
That is definitely true.
Make the endemics give the endemics the visibility and allow them to partner with you through parts, but the non-endemics, make them pay.
That's a great point.
Great point. Yeah. Before we wrap this up, Alex, do you want to plug your companies, meetthesponsors.com and sponsorship summits? How can people find you and take advantage of what you offer?
So I'm relaunching the Meet the Sponsors podcast. That'll be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts probably in a couple of weeks. I have probably 30 old episodes that I recorded in the past when I called them webinars. This is during COVID. Wasn't sure what the correct terminology was, but I had great interviews with many different brand managers and sponsorship directors on how to get sponsored specifically by them and their companies. Those will all be online under Meet the Sponsors podcast, as well as interviewed last night Cam Douglas from Optima Battery. Day before that, Jordan Cochran, who used to run marketing for 21 years for Rockstar Energy Drink. Now he owns Bob the Cooler Company. I interviewed Julian Gill, CEO of iBox Springs before that. Next week, I have Jerry Zayden from Magnaflow Camberg and Robert Wilson from Boxo. So I'm interviewing a lot of new companies and they'll be on the podcast. So meetthesponsors.com will soon go to a link there. I need about another week to get that done. Right now it goes to an old link, but sponsorshipsummits.com is my primary link. That's my business. That's my sponsorship coaching. The summits are primarily what I do. And I have a membership program where members get to attend all summits for free, and members get to watch all the videos of all past summits for free. And members can call me whenever they need help or have questions when it comes to sponsorship. You have a meeting tomorrow, you're negotiating a deal with somebody, you're not sure what to put in the deck, the proposal, you're not sure what to say. I'll get on the phone and I'll help coach you through that, and we'll try to get you sponsored. What I'm doing now is more of trying to connect drivers and teams with brands that are interested in the services that those drivers and teams can offer, as opposed to selling sponsorships. I don't sell sponsorships anymore. I'm trying to use that term where teach a person to fish instead of giving them a fish. I'm
Right.
trying to,
Makes sense.
I want to retire soon. I only have a couple more years of doing this before I'm just going to go relax and enjoy my grandchildren. But right now, I want to hand what I have, my database, my Rolodex, the knowledge I've learned over many decades of doing this. I want to make sure I share it so that it's not lost, because I think there's some quite valuable things here that could help motorsports grow. And I think many of the drivers and teams I met over the years, if they knew some of the logical things that we talk about that you don't know when you're just starting because you're driving fast, but if you learn the business of sponsorships, you realize, oh, I get it. That's why a brand sponsors. I think that will lead to more sponsorships. And if we all need motorsports to grow to because that's our living. That's how we support ourselves. It's not going to come from one big brand at the top that throws money at a series or a season or a track. it's going to come from the grassroots racers. Growth has to come from the ground up. If every team is better funded, has 2 or 3 times as much next year as they had this year, then motorsports will grow. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the goal, is to help motorsports grow, because then everybody gets paid more.
Yeah. And if you guys want to go on sponsorshipsummits.com, you can use Lewis as a coupon code, LUIS. I get 20% off, off of.
Oh, that's such a great deal.
Yeah, 20% off on Alex's stuff. And if you don't have the time to search for your own sponsors, you can hit me up, and I will do it. I will do it for you. Obviously not for free, but if you're busy running a business full time, I know how hard it is, because I run a business full time and hunt sponsorships, and it is work. If you need marketing decks made, proposals made, I am your man. I can do that as well.
Nice. Sponsorship hunt is not fun, but if you do it right, you get more results, and then it does become fun.
Yep. Will you be doing another speaking event at PRI this year?
I've signed up for 2. I don't have the confirmation from PRI yet. Usually they'll send them out by early July. I'll know for sure what room and what time slot, but I did sign up for 2 more presentations. Yes.
Awesome. I'm always at all of your presentations every year. So that's actually how we connected, was this last one. You know what I mean? I was like, I got to get in touch with Alex, so, but any other questions for Alex, Alyssa?
I don't think so. I think this was a great show. I think it was very informative. I think that you're extremely smart. I want to connect with you after this and maybe work together on some different ideas. So
I'd love to. Love to have you on Meet the Sponsors podcast as well.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah, this was great, guys. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I have a pretty awesome guest coming up next week, a very, very popular racer, popular grudge racer, popular class racer. He does both. So maybe you guys can guess who it is. Over and out, the race show. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Again.